Our very first story, the Millennium Development Authority has released its investigations, or has concluded some investigations into the concessionaire suspension saga involving electricity distributor PDS. Now, some of the findings contained in there is that PDS used revenue collected after it had taken over ECG to pay for the controversial demand guarantee premium, which should have been settled before the takeover. It, however, says there is no evidence of fraud on the part of the players. I'm joined in the studio by Raymond Aqua, who has a copy of that report and is going to be sharing that report with us. Now, Raymond, let's first of all start off with what the MEDA report had to say about clearing the people involved in this. Or maybe let's just go back and give the viewers a recap of what exactly the exact issues that we're dealing with here.
So specifically, the people PDS came in to take over as in private sector's participation in the ECG concession. They were back and forth way back in 2014, somewhere in 2015, we were making headway, and actually the concession arrangements were somehow changed when the new government came in. First was supposed to be 80% going to the private sector participant, then government said we will take 51%. So PDS finally was to be the institution that was to take over in this particular case. There were guarantees that they were supposed to produce. These guarantees are basically to say that if anything happens to the almost 18 billion asset of ECG today, this is what is virtually like an insurance. Yes.
What government can follow, what
yes,
ECG can follow.
So this was first supposed to be provided in the form of A-rated banks. First, they couldn't find them. There were reasons why they couldn't find them. There were three reasons. The report now tells us that there were three, because we were told about first, the PURC not setting the tariffs early enough. Two, disagreements on the PPAs. That's the power purchase agreements that were in existence and which was ought to be taken over. Then the last one, which the report is telling us today, was that the PDS really did not have the money available at the time.
Okay, so that's interesting. So we'll fast forward. PDS took over, and then just last month, government came in and said, no, we're suspending this agreement. On
July 16th, the ECG had written a month earlier in June 24th to the grouping that provided the demand guarantees, Akut Insurance. Now, Akut Insurance then wrote back on July 16th to ECG and told ECG that the gentleman who signed the document is fake. Two, he has no qualifications to do what he did. Three, we don't even give you that kind of reinsurance. So it cannot even fall on that in the first place. Four, if you want any further clarifications with us, please note that this instrument does not exist. Interestingly, on July 31, the same gentleman, Osman Musa Haq, who signed the July 16 document, wrote to Joe Australia, which was contracted by Carbank on behalf of PDS with Downwell to do the brokering for that particular insurance. When they wrote to Joe Australia, they told them that you've not paid the 12.25 amount required, so you have cancelled your demand guarantees. That's what alarmed government. So there was a meeting 28th of July. The government finally decided that we are going to suspend this operation.
And they suspended it, and they said they were investigating it.
Yes.
All right, so the investigations, we don't have the details, even though we're told that the investigations are over. They've concluded the investigations.
Yes, government says its own is done, and it's reviewing the reports it's received in this case.
But then MEDA, which is the agency that supervised the concession agreement and arrangement, has concluded, said it was going to conduct its own investigations, and has concluded
so MEDA's investigation is what we have actually got in the report. This particular report, which is solely for MEDA's attention, details exactly what happened, what went wrong, and what could be the remedies available to MEDA, and what really ought to be the case. So if you see on the screen now, yes, these are the specific conclusions they came to, and they've talked about based on their review of the documents and interviews conducted. And one point we need to stress here is that at no point in time does this group from MEDA meet the individuals we are dealing with, and that's individual in the name of Osman Haq Musa, and they pointed out in that particular report. But they say that they have seen all the documents, but they have not seen any document that was suggested as of March 1, 2019, PDS, Carbank, Downwell, and all personnel from MEDA should have questioned the validity of the payment securities.
There was no problem as far as they're concerned.
As of that particular time. Now, they also note that officials from Akut confirmed to K&L is the law firm that's doing the legal interpretation and investigation for and on behalf of the grouping asked to do this job. That the stamp applied on the document indeed acknowledged that this stamp is being used by Al-Quds and it's a legitimate authority from the institution. In fact, they also noted that Al-Quds, of course, that point is on your screen now. They confirmed that the signatures are that of Al-Nouri, and a third name from Al-Quds has been introduced. And to know this, Fadi Danhoud, we are told, are all employees of Al-Quds. So this Fadi was the one who, together with Al-Nouri, signed and represented Al-Quds at all times.
All right.
And this is how important that point was. Now, the next point they also make is that, given that ECG is a beneficiary of the payment security, they sought guidance from the GOGs. So they are explaining how ECG got involved and decided to cross-check again. Now, when the GOG's financial advisors, a grouping called Hatton, on how to verify the demand guarantees, then the government of Ghana's financial advisors said, don't write to Al-Nouri. Write to the original people on the website of Al-Quds, who are deemed to be the big men there.
Yeah.
When you write to them, you will get to know whether or not this demand guarantee is legitimate and genuine for that matter. That is why ECG followed up with that June 14 to Osman Haq Musa, who we still know on the website has been listed as a very important personality. Now, there's an important point you need to note here. We all have understood that, one, there's some changes made from A-rated banks to an insurance company. Also, what were considered to be conditions precedent and subsequent. We are told in this case that the structural changes made to the original form of the payment securities, as we have known it to be, were approved by the MIDA board. An action that was in line with the prior instructions given by His Excellency, the Vice President, to authorize PDS to issue the guarantees.
So MIDA here is saying that we had clearance to do what we did.
But by the highest authority in the country, represented by the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Now, there's another point you need to note on this one. It says PDS could not secure the demand guarantees or letters of credit as per the requirements of LLA from a bank. And the reasons are what I explained earlier. One, because of the delay in setting the guidelines. Two, the agreements on the list. And the most important part, which has been added, that PDS not having a certain level of capital required for the issuance of a cash-backed payment security.
So here, it's a shortcoming of a sort, which MIDA is pointing at.
Yes, and again, there's a part of the report that indicates that with all of this, the people that decided to engage PDS did not really have a proper appreciation of the financial competence and capabilities of the institution. And it's pointed out in the report. Now, number 7 brings home the point about how PDS got the monies that they use for the demand guarantees. Of the 12.25 million, we have showed that particular trajectory of where the 12.25 went through before here. Of the 12.25 million that was charged by a car bank to PDS as fees for raising the payment securities, only 1 million, that's 8%, was funded by an equity contribution by a PDS shareholder. And this shareholder is the board chairman of PDS, Philip Ayensu.
All right.
Yes.
So 1%, 1 million.
Yes, from Philip Ayensu. 7 million, which is 57%, was funded by a loan that was advanced by a car bank to another PDS shareholder. This PDS shareholder is Kwabna Atta Edu, but the loan was really gotten through Santa Baron, who's an aide of this particular gentleman. Now, we put it simply for you. What you see on the screen is where the monies for the specific demand guarantees came from. The first one is the Philip Ayensu point I made, and the date is there, February 22, prior to the concession coming into effect. Again, the second one is the Santa Baron. The Santa Baron just explained that he's related in some way to Kwabna Atta Edu, who is also a shareholder of PDS in this case. He was the one who got the loan from Car Bank. And it is clearly indicated in the earlier message before you got this. That is the conclusion number 6 in this case, that the amount of money we are talking about, the Santa Baron loan, was later on paid with specific receivings from the institutions and operations of PDS. So these were monies advanced, the first two, prior to the concession. When they got the concession, they used monies from this particular arrangement to now pay back the 7 million. And again, the third one is important, which was financed in May 17, 2019, after the concession. This 4.25 million was paid to Car Bank from the PDS operations and cash flows. Just like the way the refinancing of the amount of loan given to Santa Baron to be given to PDS shareholders and to be forwarded as the demand guarantees, almost 57%, was also financed through the cash flows transactions.
And so these are two of the bases on which the MIDA report is indicating that they did not think that PDS had the financial wherewithal to take over.
to actually make the payments required in this case, because all of this time, and let's get to the bottom of this, we needed some grouping to come and help ECG, because government have said that ECG may have the required staff, but it does not have the money, the requisite capital injections to do what is required of it. That's the underlying principle.
So
for all
we needed
of this.
an entity that would come in with that kind of capital.
Yeah, to be able to invest in this particular system so that they would promote and improve the current electricity generation system that we have.
And they settled on Meralco and PDS.
That PDS in this case.
It would be, so then it meant that PDS, being the majority shareholder, was required to bring in nearly half or more of the amount that would be required to invest in ECG to turn it around.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Ramonica. But in the statement, or in the reports that media put together, did it indicate whether this issue of PDS not having the financial wherewithal would be a problem that may affect the concession?
There's a point it makes reference to the conversation prior to going into this concession. In fact, it states that they were not fully in the known of the financial strength of PDS prior to engaging them. As in, they didn't know that they couldn't pump in the amount of money even prior to getting the demand guarantees, and we have showed you where the monies have come from. That was deemed to be problematic for them. Indeed, it didn't state categorically that going forward, if PDS is supposed to continue with the job that it's supposed to do today, it would have serious financial challenges, and they cannot inject the amount of money required for it to operate the way it ought to operate.
All right. Thank you very much, Raymond Akwa. And Raymond Akwa has just been sharing with us details of the report, investigative report put together by the Millennium Development Authority. I'm sure there'll be more on this particular story as we go on. But moving on to other stories, the new Governing Council of the University of Education, Winneba, says it will soon roll out an all-inclusive plan to resolve the long-standing impasse at the institution. The removal of former Vice-Chancellor Professor Mauto Avoke and some other lecturers triggered disagreements, court suits, and violent protests that led to the temporary closure of the school. The institution has not been able to graduate its latest batch of graduates, and Professor Avoke recently stormed campus demanding reinstatement. Inaugurating the council earlier today, Education Minister Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh called for peace on campus.
I charge you to take urgent steps to ensure that peace and stability return to UW campus as soon as possible. This will in turn enable the smooth running of academic programs and the normalcy of campus life at the university. In particular, as the body in charge of running of the university, I further charge you to deal with a number of outstanding grievances of certain individuals in the university to ensure harmony on the labor front. I also entreat you to consider setting a date for congregation as soon as possible. As soon as possible. No, congregation is the only time I get to feel I'm important. As soon as possible, and as a matter of urgency. Thousands of young men and women remain at home, anxious to graduate in order to pursue employment or further studies. However, they are to do so because of the absence of a university council. You must therefore take the necessary step aimed at primarily at bringing relief to them. I wish to inform you that I received a petition from a former Vice-Chancellor of the university and other officers on a number of issues. This is a matter for the Council to consider and take necessary and relevant steps, and I shall be passing to you accordingly before you depart.
Chairman of the Council, Professor Obeng Mreku, says they will work to get the issues resolved.
I speak here for and on behalf of my colleagues on the Council. I would like to thank His Excellency President Akufo-Addo and the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Poku-Prempeh, for appointing us as members of the Governing Council of the University of Education, Winneba. It is with a very deep sense of gratitude and honor that we do accept this call to serve our dear country. As the Minister has alluded to in his address, we are extremely mindful of the critical role that the University Council plays, the highest decision-making body of the university, responsible for providing strategic direction for the university management within the framework of the university's vision and mission. Mr. Honorable Minister, we pledge to uphold, fulfill, promote the policy directives, mandate, core values, and statutes of the university as we, together with relevant stakeholders, leverage on the achievements of the institution to surmount challenges and threats to its growth trajectory. We also promise to work diligently to justify the confidence reposed in us.
The National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, has declared a strike over what it describes as untold pressure and hardship brought on by a newly introduced system to manage the engagement of teachers. According to NAGRAT President Angel Kabonu, the Human Resource Management Information System acquired by the Public Services Commission is fraught with so many problems, including outstanding salary arrears, delays in promotion, additional responsibility allowance, delays in receiving promotion letters, and the inability to seek transfer. He says is affecting the work of teachers. At a news conference here in Accra Thursday, Mr. Kabonu called on all teachers to stay out of the classroom until their grievances are addressed. There's more in this report.
According to Angel Kabonu, NAGRAT resorted to a strike after several meetings with government to address their concerns yielded no results. Mr. Kabonu says until the Ghana Education Service addresses all their concerns, teachers will not go to the classroom.
Notable among the issues raised was the newly introduced Human Resource Management Information System, HRMIS, acquired by the Public Services Commission, which has brought a lot of problems and pains to the Ghanaian teacher in the following areas. Promotion letters. Today, teachers who have been promoted as far back as 3 years have not been given their promotion letters indicating the effective date of their promotions. This will affect their chances of progressing in the Ghana Education Service.
Mr. Kabonu stressed that teachers still have outstanding salary arrears, which are all due to promotion issues and salary upgrade problems.
It looks like the government has suspended its obligation of paying salary arrears. Yet, day in, day out, new arrears are being created. The promotion issues and salary upgrade problems mentioned earlier have created another batch of salary arrears. Teachers who, for one reason or the other, have had their salaries stopped will have to live without being paid for months, despite the fact that they report regularly for duty. It is clear that the Human Resource Management Information System, HRMIS, being operated by the Public Services Commission, is incompatible with the scheme of service of the Ghana Education Service.
He said teachers are being treated with so much disregard. Mr. Kabonu is calling on all teachers to stay out of school until further notice.
Leadership of NAGRAT informs the general public, and indeed all teachers, that from today, 5th September 2019, we have decided to lay down our tools. NAGRAT here declares a strike. All teachers in schools that have already reopened should lay down their tools and stay out of the school premises. I repeat, all teachers in schools that is already opened should lay down their tools and stay out of school. Those that are yet to reopen must stay out of the schools when school reopens. We call on all our teachers to be steadfast in this industrial action.
Now, the Ministry of Education has described NAGRAT's decision to strike as premature and unfortunate. Public Relations Officer Vincent Asefua said they are working around the clock to fix the problem.
It's an unfortunate situation. This is a situation where I didn't expect that NAGRAT would take us to this end. However, let me state that this is a strike that is premature. I do not think that NAGRAT is oblivious of the processes to which they are supposed to go through or exhaust before they can declare strike. My reliable information with the National Labour Commission today indicates that there have not been any indication or whatsoever to the National Labour Commission before the strike was declared. However, we believe that NAGRAT has germane concerns that the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education would have to address those issues. Issues of HRMIS being raised is true, but we should look at the good intent of the Public Services Commission when they moved away from the IPPD to the HRMIS. Because over the years, you could see that the system that was hosting both HR, that is the human resource data of all public servants, and also their payroll data was hosted on just one platform. So if you take the Ghana Education Service, for example, the IPPD was hosting payroll data and also the HR data.
The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Opukwa Mankwa, meanwhile says leadership of the teacher group is participating in a 3-day stakeholder forum at Mburi in the Eastern region and that no concerns on salaries and remuneration have come up. Yava says by the time the forum is over, they would have resolved the issues.
The NAGRAT strike. In fact, I just about entering here, I heard about it. I didn't know the details. But what I know is that NAGRAT is in this room with us as we are holding press conference. As I told you, we've been here with them since yesterday. We came in here and we're going to be here till tomorrow. So as far as we are concerned, if there are issues that the meeting that we are holding here, we have the opportunity to address. So I'm not very sure about how it's going to affect the schools. I believe that we will resolve our issues before we leave here tomorrow.
The Ghana Education Service has meanwhile set up a committee to look into and recommend ways parents can help in the running of schools. This follows continuous calls for parents, teachers associations to play a role in the administration of senior high schools in the implementation of the free senior high school program. Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Opukwa Mankwa, says the committee's recommendation will be considered for implementation.
Including parents to re-examine the role and responsibilities of parents in the provision of education at the pre-tertiary level. This, we believe, when it's done, will guide us in our decisions on parent associations and what they are supposed to do to support us going forward. And as soon as the committee's work is done, we'll put it out for further discussion and then go on to implement. Management of Ghana Education Service is conscious of the implications of this development in the administration and management of the schools under this circumstance. What it means is that it will require additional commitment and dedication from all stakeholders, managers, administrators, teaching and non-teaching staff, students, as well as parents. It is the expectation of management of GES that all stakeholders will work together and cooperate effectively to ensure the successful management of the system.
Staying with education, the Ghana Book Publishers Association says textbooks for the new education curriculum introduced by government will not be available when the academic year begins next week. This, the association says, will have implications for teaching and learning. The association, meanwhile, says its members are in serious financial distress, having printed 15 million cedis worth of textbooks. in anticipation of the academic year, which have now become worthless as a result of the new curriculum. Joseph Akable has more.
Ghana's education system has for years been criticized for its failure to equip students with requisite skills needed to succeed in the job market. The Ghana Education Service announced a new curriculum in an attempt to shift the focus from learning just for examination purposes. The Ghana Publishers Association says books developed based on a new model will not be available in time. Officer Jare is president of the association.
Our role was to develop the textbooks and submit them to NACA for evaluation, and that the ministry will buy books after that process. As we speak now, we have made, a few of us have submitted books to NACA. Most of us are in the process of developing the textbooks. The evaluation process, we have not heard that the evaluation process has commenced. So as we speak now, so far as we're concerned, no books have been, or no evaluation of books have been completed to allow the ministry to start the procurement process. And no books have been assessed yet, according to our knowledge. No one of our members has received their evaluation reports, which allows even the ministry to start the procurement process.
The association argues this will negatively affect students.
When they are doing independent study, that's what they're engaged in. So, I mean, this whole idea that textbooks are just an added on really is something that we took great exception to. I think that it's important that we emphasize that textbooks are very critical. Unfortunately, in our planning, the textbooks are not going to be in place at the same time as we are implementing the policy, but every effort is being made to make sure that the textbook get in early. That's a more reasonable way of approaching it than to say that textbooks are not that important.
Officer Jare is also concerned about the financial implication on members of the association who have already printed books based on the previous curriculum.
And publishers are facing the same situation where we have warehouses full of old books. Unfortunately, at one of our meetings, when this was announced, we realized this was announced publicly that the old books could not be used. One of our members, I don't know whether you heard about it, just collapsed and died in the evening. Yes. I don't know whether you heard about it. At the meeting where we were meeting with NACA, and they were telling us that you can't use the old books for the new curriculum. The guy just collapsed and died in the evening.
Teachers have meanwhile been handed some teaching materials, but textbooks remain unavailable on the market for students.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin. In business, Spanish Embassy expresses willingness to support Ghanaian industries to enhance growth.
It's true that we in Spain, we tend to look towards Latin America historically, for historic reasons, but now Ghana has become a priority country in Africa.
We'll be back with business in a bit. Stay tuned in. The South African High Commission is blaming media reports and social media commentary for exaggerating the violent attacks which have been reported in that country in recent weeks. The attacks, which have been largely targeted at foreign-owned businesses in South Africa, have left at least 5 people dead and properties destroyed. Deputy High Commissioner Thapelo Madumane, at a news conference in Accra, have challenged media reports suggesting xenophobia in South Africa.
My government in South Africa is part of the African continent. We are not an island somewhere. Our histories are linked. We are the same people. The concept of an African being a foreigner on the African continent is itself a foreign concept. But the issue is this. Good things that many do are sometimes rendered or lessened by negative acts of a few. So where you have 100 people doing extremely well, just 2 have got to do the worst thing to be remembered. And when people remember, oh, it's from that country, oh, it's from that country, and it does not mean that all what we're saying is that, well, foreigners are dealing in fake goods, because it will also be indictment on ourselves that we let fake goods into our country. But it is part of a larger problem.
Yaba condemned the attacks and assured the criminal elements in South Africa will be dealt with.
The High Commission is aware of reports that are making rounds with regard to what our government position or what this High Commission is saying. There are reports to the extent that we are saying African governments must create jobs in their own countries so as to make sure that their citizens do not go to South Africa. That is a misunderstanding of the statement of the High Commissioner. Most of the time when she engages with the media or with her visitors and all that, she talks about a need to create employment wherever we are. The High Commissioner was the Minister of Agriculture. She was the Minister of Women and people with disabilities and all that. And she sometimes, or most of the time, approached this thing looking at the most vulnerable in the community. So what she was talking about was like the policies that you have here, you're planting and rearing for food and jobs. What does that do? It creates jobs, and it creates jobs where in the rural area, and as such, it stops migration. We have some small industrial development policies, so she was attesting to that. Not that government should make jobs and so that their people should not go to South Africa. South Africa will continue to need skilled labor. We are part of the African community. To echo my president's statement, which unequivocally condemns the attacks and promises all foreign nationals and commit to them that my government remains committed to restore law and order and to ensure that those who are within our borders, whether they are South African citizens or foreigners alike, that they enjoy the protection of the state. Over the past few days, you would have received reports, or you would have seen reports alluding to the outbreak of violence. My government attributes this to simple criminality and people taking the law into their own hands.
Now, some sympathizers of the disqualified NDC parliamentary aspirant for Asawase constituency in the Ashanti region on Monday demonstrated at the regional office of the party to register their displeasure about his disqualification. Amidst burning of tires, the supporters of Masaudu Mubarak demanded that the party hierarchy rescind its decision to avoid further demonstration. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin's report read to you.
The angry supporters chant. Others set more tires on fire. The entire regional office of the NDC was engulfed with smoke. The angry supporters of Masaudu Mubarak added their padlock to the already locked offices. Earlier Wednesday, the sympathizers gathered at Masaudu's residence, where they vowed to vote skirt and blouse or even boycott the 2020 elections if the party hierarchy doesn't rescind its decision and allowed Masaudu contest. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report for Joy News.
A program for what officials describe as radical paradigm shift in border protection and personal welfare is being rolled out by the Ghana Immigration Service. Comptroller General Kwame Techi will not give details for security reasons, but insists government has already initiated some interventions. He was addressing personnel in the Ashanti region as part of the Interior Minister's visit. Nanea Jima was there and filed this report.
Joy News' recent series on Ghana's borders highlighted porosity of entry points with her neighbors amid threats of terrorist infiltration. Traders and other travelers enter and leave the country through legal and illegal routes without the required documentation. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry admits there are challenges but says some gains have since been made. He expects immigration personnel to step up efforts to identify and track down potential troublemakers. Mr. Derry also cites human trafficking and irregular migration as other areas of progress.
Because you broke a gun that was issuing fake birth certificates and getting out our young girls, minors as adults, that was you were able to do that. But we have a challenge. Burkina Faso. Problems, security challenges. So we have the government combined security team, Operation Conquest Face, the military, police, immigration, doing very well. I want to congratulate you and let us take note of those foreigners who are coming into this country.
Already, government has commenced retooling of the service to enable it effectively execute its mandate. Mr. Aswatechi lists some improvements recorded so far.
Rugged border patrol motorbikes. The directed management has also purchased 16 hard-body Nissan pickups that we have sent to the north. And you know our role in the Operation Conquest Fit with other security organizations. We've also bought 3 brand new Toyota Prado for the directorate. Already, I can say on authority, with the support of the ministry and the council.
Mr. Aswatechi says measures are also in place to cut down on administrative costs in order to make more funds available to improve conditions at service posts and offices.
We are having an expansion, and the idea is that immigration should be visible in every part of the country because of the role that we play. Immigration and border management is assuming a dynamic proportion. I've decided when I go back to Accra that we are going to sit down and plan, and all the interests that some offices don't deserve, I'm going to cut it.
From Kumasi for Joy News, Nanea Jima reporting.
Africa's approach to tackling the global climate crisis has been giving a major boost with a call on the continent's leaders to attach a sense of urgency in mitigating the impact, particularly in the agriculture sector. Addressing a gathering of African heads of state and agric ministers at the ongoing African Green Revolution Forum in Accra, President Akufo-Addo called on his colleague president to explore new ways of improving crop yields to transform agriculture on the continent. Running digital revolution concurrently with agriculture, according to the president, will not only equip the continent to find a way around the menace, but will also create job opportunities for Africa's youth in the agriculture value chain.
When government has put the transformation of agriculture at the heart of our nation's priorities, this is because we believe the majority of people can feel a change in their lives when we develop agriculture, which will bring in its wake rapid economic growth, job creation, reduction in the phenomenon of rural-urban migration, improvement in the resilience of communities in the fight against climate change, and achievement of the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If we are to realize these dividends, we must, as a matter of urgency, confront the many challenges that impede the advancement of the agricultural sector. These include inadequate infrastructure.
President Akufo-Addo said he expects the Planting for Export and Rural Development module of the Planting for Food and Job policy to rake in not less than $2 billion annually for the country.
The tree crops module, i.e. Planting for Export and Rural Development PERD, targeted the development of selected tree crops: cashew, coffee, oil palm, coconut, mango, rubber, and shea, to diversify Ghana's cash crop sector, which has been dominated by cocoa for the past 130 years. Our strategy is to develop the selected tree crops, each to earn as much as cocoa is currently earning for Ghana, i.e. $2 billion annually.
Leaders of the Fixed Voter Roads Now campaign have given government up till September 15, 2019 to ensure a contractor commences work on 3 major roads in the region. They listed Esikuma Jasikan, Japon Ho, and Ho Aplau stretch as the most deplorable in the region, which needs to be fixed now. Addressing newsmen in Ho, Secretary for the campaigners, Andrews Adugu Esquire, said the group would be forced to embark on a series of lawful demonstrations nationwide should government fail to meet the September 15 deadline. Fred Kwame Asai's report read to you.
Secretary of the campaigners Andrew Adugu indicated that the deplorable state of the aforementioned roads does not only have health implications on users and residents, but also impedes education, tourism and socio-economic growth.
I am standing right at the Sokode-Ho dual carriage road which has not been constructed. We have petitioned the government and we have mentioned 3 specific routes from Japan all the way to Ho, Asikuma all the way to Jasikan, and from Ho to Aplau. We have petitioned the president asking him, and we have also copied the Minister for Roads and Highways and our regional minister, asking them to fix the voter roads before 15th of September 2015. We want to get the contractors on site, work to begin, and for work to be completed within a reasonable time.
Some road users and residents spoke to Joy News.
As you can all see, these are the orientation of the road. So we, the youth and the voters, have decided to call on government to come to our aid to construct this road. I have been asking that when you go to Europe, 50-kilometer road, you see them putting toll posts on it. Why can't we do same as a country? Is Akufo-Addo saying that our president saying that he can't see investors put toll posts on these roads when being constructed and then let the investors move their money?
See, even from here to Accra, you cannot enjoy the road. You understand? You cannot enjoy the road from here to Accra. Then the contractors, you don't know where they have been to. About almost a month, they say more than 6 months, they are not on the road. Then as you can see how we are suffering from here, the dust is too much. So we beg the government to do something about it.
The Volta Regional Minister was reported to have said works would resume on major roads in the region in September. He said the whole Sokode-Beve, Peki Hohoi and Ho Denu trunk roads were chosen to be constructed with funding from the Sino-Hydro facility and other sources. The group says their checks revealed that China Railway No. 5 Engineering Ghana Limited, which was working on the whole Sokode road, have left site and contractors on the Peki Hohoi stretch are yet to return to site. Fred Kwame Asai's report for Joy News.
The National Association of Domestic Builders and Matrons NAPDAM says some members have developed health problems as a result of smoke and heat in the kitchen. National President of the Association, Margaret Asamoah, said the risk involved in working at the kitchens of the various senior high schools is huge, and yet those expenses are not covered by the state. She appealed to government to pay risk allowance to kitchen staff to ameliorate their suffering or the suffering they go through. Margaret Asamoah made the appeal at the 7th Biennial Conference of the Association in Wa. Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
The 3-day 7th biennial delegates conference of the National Association of Domestic Bases and Matrons is being attended by delegates from all 16 regions in the country. The conference is aimed at sensitizing members of the association on how to ensure successful implementation of the free senior high school education policy and also elect new executives to run the affairs of the association. National President of the association, Margaret Asamoah, expressed concern over the poor working conditions members are subjected to, which she said have serious implications for their health. She cited the case of kitchen staff who on daily basis go through smoke and excruciating heat to cook for students at the various senior high schools in the country.
We are exposed to a lot of risk, especially with the use of firewood, which emits a lot of smoke, and it is gradually affecting our health. Apart from the smoke, the heat, when all the firewood are being put on, the place is very hot and we have to stand in and cook for the students. We are the first to report to work and the last to report to leave work. But when you look at our income, some of the cooks take as low as 300 cedis, 400 cedis.
Central Region Chairperson of the Domestic Bases and Matrons Association, Dorothy Donko, on her part, suggested to the government to move away from the buying of firewood to liquefied petroleum gas in order to reduce the challenges they have when cooking with the former. Madame Dorothy also spoke of other challenges they are confronted with.
We are suggesting that the government should supply us with the LP gas, LPG, because it's very expensive. And then buying the firewood also for the kitchen is also another challenge.
The National Domestic Bases and Matron Association have allowed the government for the introduction of the one common menu under the free senior high school program.
Since the inception of the free SHS, we have been able to implement the one common menu for the whole country and then equal quantities. And as I said, we can boldly say that since the inception of the free SHS, every student or in each school, we take bread 7 times, which at first it was a challenge to us.
Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam.
We take a break now to bring you the second dose of business. Stay tuned in.